Hey guys, it's the Tominator, back with another one. This time we're going to evaluate the third and fourth callouts from the 2022 Olympia. Normally I never do this, but because this year was such a deep lineup, there were around 20 guys who were all pretty talented and could have easily been higher if they would have peaked better. Take this third callout for example, featuring 13th place Patrick Johnson, 14th place Charles Griffen, 15th Justin Rodriguez, and then Akim Williams, James Hollingshead, and Antoine Vaillant all coming in at 16. They don't score him past that, so there were like 20 guys in 16th. It's a stupid oversight, and one of the few serious criticisms I made in that trolling predictions video. It's like, what's the point in allowing 30 plus bodybuilders to compete if you're only going to actually rank half of them? Seems pretty weird and lazy to me. I don't know, but I'd be kind of pissed if I'm Akim or James, who were clearly way better than someone from the fifth callout, but still officially placed the same. Anyway, in this front double biceps, I'm tempted to go with one of these two on the outsides, Patrick or Akim. They look the biggest overall, and in terms of the arms and legs especially, and were also the widest elbow to elbow. It's just that neither looks particularly polished. Akim had practically a matte finish, and Patrick looked soft like he was holding some water. From a conditioning perspective, it's probably Charles or Antoine, but they're both giving up a fair amount of mass here. Justin Rodriguez usually kills this pose when he's on, but he was a far cry from his best and looks a little too blocky through the waist. Hollingshead has a big ribcage and chest, but is otherwise a bit narrow and smooth upstairs. So yeah, I would begrudgingly give this one to Akim. Nobody really nailed it, but I like his size and outline the most. The front lat spread goes to Griffen, who really fills it out nicely. After that, maybe James. Even though he's not the widest, he looks thick and powerful, with some of the better legs in the picture. Rodriguez is last for me because his waist is the widest, and he looks puffy up top. It's odd because he's wide as hell, so on paper, he should be pretty good in this one, but the end result looks kinda wonky. Patrick was packing an incredible amount of muscle that would have been good enough to hang with the top callout, but unfortunately for him, the conditioning wasn't up to snuff. If you give him Antoine's dryness, this dude would have surely cracked top 10. As for the side chest, I think you go with Akim. His outer thigh is always incredible, even when he's off. So while the upper body needs to be sharper, this is still good enough in this group. Patrick is a close second because he matches Akim's mass, but isn't quite as impressive downstairs. After that, I actually like Antoine, who's showing some nice detail here. The upper body still needs to come up a bit, but his lower body can hang with the best of them. James is very balanced, but could use a cleaner glute ham tie-in. Charles looks a little thin compared to the others, and his chest was kind of flat. Justin suffers from a similar problem as Big Ramy this year, namely that the arms look somewhat undersized from the side, particularly the triceps, but also the forearms as well. Turning around, this was a good shot for Charles, James, and Justin. All of them look fairly crispy through the back, and Rodriguez crushes it size-wise with those booming lats, delts, and biceps. Unfortunately, none of them look truly peeled in the lower half. But still, Patrick and Akim look so off here. Akim is practically in off-season mode. This lack of conditioning was the primary reason he fell off so hard in the standings, because he's been a perennial top 6 contender for the past couple years, so this result had to be disappointing for him. Antoine had probably the best conditioning of them all. You can actually see a bit of a Christmas tree there in his lower back, but his lack of upper body mass is what kept him from placing any higher. So I would give this pose to Justin, followed probably by Charles, and then James. In the rear lat spread, I like those three again. Justin for the extreme mass through the back, Charles for the density and thickness, and James for the taper and detail. Patrick Johnson also fares pretty good here. I'd put him over Akim with his higher lat insertions. The side try is better for Akim, however. He looks awesomely thick right now, and that almighty side leg once again re-enters the equation. If only his triceps horseshoe was more defined. Charles always looks way better off stage in this one. I guess that's true for most of these guys who post amazing progress pics, right? But it rarely ever seems to translate come contest day. Something about his proportions is off. I think it's the short torso. Just compare his midsection to James's, and you could see it looks sort of squashed. James is pretty solid in this one. He's another in the Hunter Labrada mold of being big and balanced in everything, but not really standing out in anything. No real knockout poses or eye-grabbing body parts. But hey, that's okay. Not a bad place to be as a bodybuilder, considering that at this level, the judging mainly revolves around picking out flaws, not strengths. I don't like Anton's posing here. He's pulling that arm back unnecessarily far and sort of sticking his stomach out. The posture looks wrong, and it's too bad because he's arguably the most conditioned out of all of them. With some better posing, he might have even taken it, but ah well. Now they move Patrick into the middle, which makes sense. His thick development was so overwhelming. Even at only, say, 90%, this was good enough to force his way towards the top of the group. Do I agree with him outright winning this call-out? Nah, I don't know about that, but he was certainly one of the top 2 or 3. The ab and thigh goes to Antoine for having the most ripped core and some very good legs as well. One of the few modern-day pros with big calves, so he should automatically get some bonus points for that in my opinion. And for the record, I realize the judges don't do that. I'm just saying that maybe they should, since it's so rare these days. James isn't far behind with some good abs and wheels of his own. And Charles looks impressive with that full-on vacuum, but unfortunately his abs, when he was crunching, weren't very good. So don't be thinking you can get away with sucking them in there, Griffen. This isn't classic physique. And my god, even Patrick tries his hand at one. Not as sunken, but just the fact that he'd even go for it is surprising, given his massive stature. I love the shape of his quads, so I'd probably go with him and Charles in 3rd and 4th, and then Akim, with Justin bringing up the rear, because his midsection is too blocky, as we previously noted. In the most muscular, I like Patrick once he's fully flexing. The advantage in this pose always goes to the big guys, and so him and Akim are probably 1 and 2. James and Anton also look highly polished, though. Both of them just need a bit more lateral tricep sweep to cap it off. And in James's case, some bigger biceps here wouldn't hurt. I'm not really digging these shots from Charles and Justin. I would have them in 5th and 6th. So yeah, that was the 3rd call-out from Friday Night Prejudging. Now, let's just do a quick recap from the finals on Saturday, and then we'll move on to that 4th call-out with the blabbermouth, blessing. Okay, so they line them all up again, and you can see that Johnson and Williams both have a little more oil on them now, which is helping. Patrick might have even tightened up a bit. And from that brief glimpse, I would go with Patrick Johnson in the front double. Tremendous fullness through the arms and legs. On this one, it's Griffen, Johnson, and Hollingshead. James has excellent polish here. He really nailed those last-minute preparations. From the side, it's Patrick, with an asterisk though, because we didn't get a look at Akim. Given what we saw the night before, it's safe to say he'd be battling for first in this pose. Turning around. Yeah, Patrick still needed to pull out more water. I like Justin and Charles here. Rear lat spread is Charles, or maybe even James, who looks surprisingly big through the back right now. Justin is lagging behind a bit, below the waist. Side try is tough to call. I can't really say much, other than that Charles looks better the more they zoom in. Okay, the vacuum and thigh goes to Charles, but James takes the abs and thigh. Antoine didn't look as sharp there through the legs compared to before. And once again, in the most muscular, this has got to be Akim or Patrick. They're so similar in this one, they could almost be brothers. The same sort of skin tone and proportions and roundness, and even the posing trunks are an exact match. I'd give Akim a slight edge because his crab shot was a little better with the broader shoulders. Okay, that's enough for this group. Now let's check out the next callout featuring everybody's favorite shit talker, Blessing Awodibu. And I say that facetiously because a lot of people can't stand him, myself included. This dude is like a yappy little dog who barks too much. This is bodybuilding, not WWE. Just shut up and let your physique do the talking. Anyway, here in this front double, I will give it to him, simply for the size and outline alone. His conditioning wasn't up to par, and those legs still look like they're under construction, but he's got good symmetry, and those are some big-ass biceps. After that, I'd go with the guy on the right. I believe that was Mohammad Alnsoor from Jordan. Mohamed Shaaban, next to Blessing, looks good with some grainy quads, but the complete lack of calves and short arms sort of messes up his flow. Joel Thomas, second from the right, has calves for days. Too bad the upper legs can't keep up. Those quads really aren't Olympia caliber. But speaking of bad quads, what's Blessing doing in this one? That stance is so wide, it's distracting. And what's with the raised toes? This wide stance is a cheap trick some bodybuilders use to try to create the illusion of outer quad sweep. Even Derek Lunsford was guilty of that. But it's not fooling anyone here. You've got to get back under that squat rack and quit joking around so much on social media, guy. I would actually have Blessing dead last right here. Impressive upper body, sure, but way too soft and smooth on the whole. Shaaban takes this one, followed by Mohamed, then Thomas. The side chest is close. They're all too soft, but hey, it's the fourth callout for a reason. I'm leaning towards Joel Thomas or Mohammad Alnsoor. Blessing's a little top-heavy, and Shaaban looks like he's holding too much water upstairs. In the back double, here you can see the lack of conditioning through the lower bodies, especially these two on the right. Blessing actually fares okay now, and it's close between him and Shaaban. I would probably go with Shaaban though, because he's a bit drier from the back. The rear lat spread you can give to Blessing though. His back and V-taper was superior to all these guys. For what it's worth, I will say that I did actually like Blessing's hairdo and posing trunks. A little flashy, but it suits him well. We don't get a good look at the side try. But in the ab and thigh, Blessing's got great abs, but once again, the legs let him down. It probably has to go to Shaaban then, or Mohamed there on the right, if you consider a vacuum an acceptable substitute. I don't, so that's why I said Shaaban. And Blessing takes the most muscular because he's got too much mass upstairs. Again though, he's got to stop doing that weird foot thing with the overly splayed stance. It's not helping, but rather hurting him because it draws more attention to the lackluster legs. Alright guys, so that's my take on these third and fourth callouts. I thought Blessing was probably good enough to top this group. It was between him and Shaaban, so not sure why the judges had Joel Thomas in the middle there. But anyway, hope you enjoyed, and that'll probably put a bow on it for the 2022 Mr. Olympia. Going forward with this channel, we're gonna keep it pretty low-key, like last year, only covering the major contests and maybe a few other shows here and there that deliver above expectations. I've explained this several times before, but for anyone new here, let's just say that bodybuilding is not my life, okay? Other than YouTube, I'm not involved in the industry at all. And going into this Olympia, my excitement level was honestly like a 2 out of 10, despite all the big names and fresh faces. This contest was compelling enough to rekindle my interest for now, but before last weekend, I was seriously considering just shutting it down for good. So, I don't know, we'll play it by ear, I guess. I just wanted to give you guys the heads up so you're not wondering if I don't post again for a couple months. But a big shout out to all my subscribers and supporters, and for everyone leaving thoughtful and constructive comments. I love reading your input. You guys are awesome. As always, this has been the Tominator, signing out.